hot button.
Alright, so we need a good name, but side quest is a little too on the nose, right? Like it's not kind of like
I think
inventive
microtransactions is good.
I like microtransactions. I think that's better than pre-order bonus or DLC.
What did I say upstairs? Paid something? What did I say?
What'd you say?
Pre-order? No, not pre-order bonus. It was something else.
Bonus content? Was that it?
Paid
Bonus content isn't bad.
Yeah.
Bonus content sounds a little too like we have a Patreon.
And it's actually bonus content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about a little dip on the side? Just like that, though.
You guys definitely got a little too literal with the hot button name. Though I did at least like that you rejected Hot Flash.
Yes,
I wasn't feeling Hot Flash.
kept posting Hot Flash on Discord, and I had to have one of those like, I don't think you know what this means. That's why I said that thing. I mean, I'm sure he did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not a fan of. I don't know. Maybe we should. Do we have enough people that like us to do like a you figure it out?
Well, I mean, you looked up. Didn't you just look up synonyms for hot?
Yeah, it was like
And button
scorching
also.
switch or something.
See, it doesn't need to be a synonym though, because it's not. It's
What if
not
it was
like a direct?
What if it was the opposite? Cold lever.
But see, it can't be the. It's not the opposite. It's gotta be like a.
Well, it has to say. It has
minuscule
to say
version.
what it is.
Lukewarm button.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta resurrect our old bit.
Like a little bit of fun. There's gotta be it's gotta be something small related.
I like microtransaction, even though it has like a negative connotation to it. That almost makes it better.
It does, but it's almost like if you listen to us, you get the irony.
Yeah,
Do you know
that's
what I mean?
true.
I like microtransactions.
Unless you called it like hot loot box or something.
I like microtransactions.
Ooh, what about loot box?
Loot box.
Yeah, that's also you'd have to understand the irony because that's a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Something like loot box or microtransactions, something that signifies some little nugget of something else.
Yeah, a bit of extra for
What
you.
about bonus skins?
On disc.
On disc DLC.
On disc content. I don't.
Hot button Battlefront 2.
Well, we'll figure it out by the time this goes up, right?
Is this the cold open?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to?
That's the cold open too.
Are we
what
gonna
you just said.
explain what we're talking
Yes,
about?
I am.
Yes.
All right. So this is going to be Hot Button's first ever short stories episode.
Well, we're not calling it short stories.
No, we're not. But
Damn it. Hold on. Let's take the whole thing again.
but we are going to try something a little bit different, something that may actually become a new little series here on our video game podcast show. We wanted to sort of find a way to break up some of the larger stories we have been covering lately with more easy to take in ones for those that might not have all the time to listen to the big multi-parters as much.
Not even just that. I think it's just like there's so many great stories in gaming that don't take an hour
Totally,
and a half
yeah.
to talk about.
This
you know
will
what I
allow
mean?
us to kind of give a space to maybe cover a few of the smaller topics that wouldn't totally warrant their own full episode by themselves. But like,
Sorry, if you had that in your script.
no, it's
I
why? Because you just saw my eyes. No, but these are all things that we thought would be interesting for us to discuss together, regardless. Essentially, the idea is that we each bring a little something to the table to share in our new and improved studio. Now it looks legit.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
So we're gonna post a
love-
picture
yeah.
on
we got
everything.
foam for days
We
in
got
here.
foam days for real. It's all fucking. It's a lot darker before because we plugged up all the windows.
A
but
little
like,
bit.
The longer I've been down here, the more I've
This
like
is the
adjusted
dimmest
to the
light bulb in the world. Like
Yeah.
it's. I'm kind of.
I'm going for a warm feeling.
Yeah.
It is warm. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. I don't think a white light would do us any good.
I feel cozy in
Yeah.
here.
It does
I bought
feel
light
cozy.
bulbs for this basement not too long ago from Walmart, and I didn't. They're just like bright white LEDs.
Oh my god!
If you go
no.
up there, half of them are the old light bulbs, and the other half are
the
like
swirly ones.
no. They look like that. They look like spotlights, but they're bright white. Like they're not dimmed at all, like this one is.
No, I'm
There's yellow
I'll
light.
take
That's
this
why.
one. Yeah, I'll
As I
take this
keep
one.
looking at it and
But-
fucking blinding myself.
But we
It makes me feel like a hospital outside of this little booth we have.
But it's the three of us all bringing separate subjects in the world of games that we felt deserved a conversation among us. It could be a reveal of a funny news story we may have come across while researching, or insight into a more current event in the industry that's still developing. Perhaps one of us just was looking looking to enlighten everyone with a few fun historical sort of, video game facts.
Is that what you're doing? Is that why you did that?
As long as there's room for us to have a dialogue under around 20 minutes each, and that it's entertaining, anything goes.
Well, I didn't know there
Little
was a
strict
clock
there,
on
yeah,
this.
No. They're not like...
Sounds like a lot of rules.
They're not definitive, I should say. But yeah, all three of us have something. Now that that's all out of the way, this is Hot Button, and I'm Randall Beatrice, here as always with Austin Blakesley
Yeah.
and Chris Antuano.
Hey! Dude, 25 minutes of that. That's every week.
Is that what you're
I
doing?
would fill up so much
I
time.
listened to a podcast once where they had Ben Schwartz on from Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And he did that bit as long as his
How
breath
long?
would allow.
He was
It was a
fucking
couple of
funny.
minutes.
Oh my God.
Have you ever listened to him?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it was
know.
fucking hilarious.
He did that for a couple of minutes.
The commitment.
Yeah.
I always want to commit to something dumb like that. Like we were talking, we had a little outdoors unplugged music show.
Yeah.
And I was talking beforehand. I was like, I wish I had the guts to go to a comedy club and do like 5 minutes of content as if I were from the future. Like, hey, what's up with them sliz blobs on B7? Am I right, guys?
Well,
It's crazy out
you
there.
stole my bit, which is that I wrote a stand-up set from when I was in college.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
I need to hear
I
that.
found it on my computer and I retooled it
Yes.
into a stand-up set for now, but it's also all the jokes are relevant in 2011.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Are there current events things that you had to update, like,
I didn't update
or
them.
just modern story, like?
I just updated it so that it was funnier that I was making that joke now. You'll see what I mean if I ever get around to performing it.
All right. So, what has everyone brought with them today? And I think we decided that Chris is going to go first.
Yeah, I can go first.
And also, I just realized this will all give us some more chances to kind of switch hosting duties as well, which is
for
nice.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm Randall Beatrice, and this is Hot Button.
I'm also
Hot
Randall
Flashes.
Beatrice, and this is
We're not
a
calling
little
it hot
piece
flash.
of sausage. I was actually originally going to do during our Destiny episode, I brought up the fact that there was like a big dispute among the sound of the spheres, the music of the spheres, or whatever they called like the audio thing.
That's the
between
most,
the guy
overly
who composed
poetic
it,
thing. Yeah.
who composed it with our famous
Martin
Beatles.
With Paul McCartney.
Yeah, with Paul McCartney, and I was gonna do that whole story, but recently Nakey Jakey came out with a video about.
I love Naked Jay. Austin got me hooked on him recently, and I just marathoned all those videos.
And he brought up something that was like, I was like, holy shit, I forgot that story is so cool, so I thought I'd go with that.
Okay.
All right. This is going to be the most off-topic intro to a story on Hot Button ever. In December of 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan.
No, I said I'm doing the Tetris episode.
This led to a chain of events that brought hostilities between the United States and the Soviet Union to new heights. Not since the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 had the world stood closer to the edge of nuclear annihilation.
If he starts talking about Tetris, I'm going to freak out.
As men in high places played a zero-sum game with our species. But 2 months later was the Winter Olympics, so none of that mattered. Legit, the American sidebar and 65 some other countries boycotted the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow.
Yeah, that was 84?
No, 1980.
Oh, that's 80. Oh,
And
sorry,
the
84 was in
Soviets-
LA. That's where, yeah, sorry.
And the Soviets still came to America for the Winter Olympics because that's how much ice hockey means to them.
Yeah. They didn't come to the summer, though. They famously boycotted that summer one.
In Lake Placid, New York...
Is that where the alligators from?
In Lake Placid, New York,
Okay.
the two great dueling powers were about to face off, but not with nuclear missiles, with hockey pucks. The Soviet Union, I promise this is relatable again. The Soviet Union were the 4-time defending gold medalists for ice hockey.
Damn.
Yeah, it's insane. They
All right,
won
man.
5 out of the last 6 prior to this, and they were 4
It was
straight.
killing sports betting.
By the way, sidebar. Do you know where he's going with this yet?
No,
Okay,
I
continue.
don't.
I do.
Okay.
They were professionals in every single sense of the word. They were fucking the manliest men, the best hockey players on earth, the Soviet Union at the time.
Sounds like it.
Their opponents, the complete amateur team comprised of, like I said, all amateurs, United States. So, both teams were unbeaten in the group stage of the Olympics, and several notable and hard-fought games had got them this far. They're in the semifinals, okay?
Okay.
Here comes the game. At the end of the first period, it was tied 2-2. This is insane. the Americans are not supposed to be this good.
Right.
They shouldn't have even made it 2-2. Like I said, Soviets won 4 gold medals in a row.
Yeah.
They were just slaughtering.
Rags to riches. There's got to be a sports like biopic kind of movie based on this, right?
It's called Miracle.
I don't know.
With Kurt Russell, the Disney movie.
Hey,
I never saw it.
So,
Wow.
I'm a movie guy too. I haven't seen a lot of sports
come the
movies.
second period, the Soviets absolutely dominate the game. Exactly what everybody thought they did. They led the Americans 12-2 in shooting, which is like the shots on goal. I know a lot of our listeners probably aren't big sports
I
fans.
know what that
Yeah.
means.
Alexander Maltsev, he comes away with 1 goal. That's it, out of those 12-2. But
Dork.
it was enough to put the Soviets ahead. So the Soviets have a 3-2 lead at the end of the second. In the third, there's only 3 in hockey for people.
That I know.
The
I've been to hockey
Americans
games.
tied the game 3-3.
And played it.
And then a couple minutes later, they took the lead for the first time in the game, 4-3, with just 10 minutes left. And the Americans
America.
held on to that 4-3 lead until the end. There's a pretty famous line. Sportscaster Al Michaels' famous quote, "The crowd begins to chant the seconds remaining on the clock."
Oh man.
Here's his quote. 11 seconds. You've got 10 seconds. The countdown is going on right now. Morrow up to Silk. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Screams.
Yes.
The Americans won that game despite overwhelming odds against them.
You know, maybe I have seen that movie.
This is real life.
I know, but I think I may have seen the movie.
It's called The Miracle on Ice.
They
Is it?
said that it was like a Canadian college football team beating the Super Bowl champions. Which for our listenership, that's like your mom beating any of those Korean guys or that one Finnish guy who won all the StarCraft 2 championships. The U.S. went on to win gold against Finland after that. They actually beat them. No, was it? Yeah, it was Finland, right? Yeah, but it was either Finland or Sweden. I'm pretty sure it was Finland.
Don't look at me. Look at this guy.
They went on to win the gold, and the Miracle on Ice, as it's known, went down as one of the most iconic sports moments and stories of all time.
Yeah.
It's listed as one of the top 100 sports things of all time. It's just...
I don't even like sports, and I love that story. It's
an epic
inspiring.
moment.
Yeah.
It is inspiring.
Yeah.
You got to think about what was going on at the time. The Cold War, the fucking 2 powers who are about to destroy the world are facing off at hockey. One is
Yeah.
amateur, one is not. It's like this kind of fucking fairy tale, and the Americans underdogs win. Granted, I'm not fucking nationalist or American. I'm pretty sure I've made my
No.
views very clear on this podcast. If not, if you've heard a conversation with me.
Still,
But
all about come from behind victories.
it is a very cool moment. It's iconic. It's one of the pillars that makes sports so interesting and fun to listen to and
Totally,
watch. So, this was an incredibly long-winded way to say, do video games have these moments?
Oh wait, now I know where he's going. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
There are quite a few epic moments in professional video games. But off the top of your head, minus the one you think I wrote about, do you think think of any contenders for a Miracle on Ice level excitement that at least resonate with you?
I think Austin, you probably have some things more in your...
I don't watch professional gaming, so
There's a couple.
I've
there's
seen
a
some
couple
pretty.
of
I've
Smash
seen some pretty
ones.
gnarly stuff in Smash Brothers.
a lot
yeah.
of Smash Brothers.
There was the one.
Some of the
that guy
speedrunning
that-
stuff can be pretty.
There's a
like,
guy named, I might get this wrong, I believe his name is Axe.
Okay.
He plays Pikachu. He is the top Pikachu player for Melee in the world.
Is it the one where
And
he
Melee,
dives like
too.
off the edge?
Oh, and
like,
the
buries
fox
him at
that's,
the end?
He was playing somebody who's very good,
It's
who was playing Fox.
Yeah, on
and
Fountain of Dreams. I remember
on
that.
Fountain of Dreams, he four-stocked him in under a minute.
Yeah. It's pretty. Yeah, it's wicked.
There's the one I mentioned earlier, which was Infiltration, who's a Korean player, was about to beat, I believe it was Daigo, who will come up
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
But in Street Fighter 4, and then he switched to one of the lowest tier characters in the game just to mind fuck him and ended
This
up
came
winning.
up earlier. Yeah, when I was
Yeah.
talking about that character.
There's
Or also in that-
Hungrybox
Yeah.
winning. There's a lot.
who was
In that
was
Nicky Jakey video, he shows the Counter-Strike guy
There's some
in the
pretty-
tournament
that
who
was
sneaks
he
behind
threw-
the guy.
he throws
waits
a
until
pistol.
they're together.
Yeah,
oh
that
no,
was-
yeah, there's one where a
yeah.
guy throws a pistol over and he thinks it's a flash
It's a flash grenade? Yeah,
But there's
that's
one
the
where
one I
he
was thinking
sneaks
of.
behind a guy, waits till 2 are
Oh,
next to each other,
yeah.
and then kills them both at the same time.
and then the third guy in the hall too.
it's
that
suffice
one's
to
really
say
good.
that these moments, there are contenders.
Totally.
So.
Dude, who was the guy in Street Fighter who celebrated early?
That was not Street Fighter. I think that was BlazBlue.
Was it BlazBlue?
Yeah.
I knew at Evo somebody thought that they won, and then he like went to go lift his hands up at the crowd, and then the other guy started the next round and knocked him out while he was like
Yeah.
preemptively like, yeah, that was pretty wild.
All right, so like I said, very long-winded to get around this. But video games have these exciting moments. My question posed is because that it exists. Daigo Yumehara is a Japanese professional video game player focusing on 2D fighting games, even more specifically those developed by Capcom. Daigo, or the Beast, as they call him here in the West. I think they call him by Yum, or like a combination of his last name in Japan when he plays.
Okay.
He is one of the best Street Fighter players in the world, and often a contender for the greatest, period.
So much so that there is an action figure of
What?
Daigo. I don't know if you ever saw that.
That's great.
There's a statue of Daigo
That's how you know you've made it.
standing in the middle with a fight stick under his arm like this. And then on both sides of him are Ryu, who's the one character he mains, and then Akuma on the other side.
Yeah.
And like Mad Catz, I think, commissioned
Mad
it.
Catz is
Wow.
one of his biggest sponsors. He plays Guile nowadays because I was reading that they nerfed Ryu in like recent.
Fuck those Minecraft YouTuber action figures. That's
Yeah.
baller.
So, like I said, he's a contender for one of the greatest of all time, period. And obviously, due to what Austin just said, his fame is unquestionable in the fighting
I know who
community.
he is, and I don't follow those circuits.
He currently holds the world record for the most successful player in major tournaments of Street Fighter.
Holy shit! I wonder how much money Oh, that's so good.
Not as much as you'd think. His winnings are listed
Just
at like
showed
some
me the-
200K tournament winnings, and that's on Wikipedia says
Really?
that. But you got to think he's also been sponsored for a long time.
The little 15-year-old just won $3 million in Fortnite. You're telling me he's...
Daigo is also 30-something and started like
I know,
like way later. So professional gaming has quite evolved since his time is starting. I was going to go through like a little bit of his tournament history here, but his list of notable tournaments he's competed in literally took me several seconds scrolling at full speed on my phone. Okay, so think about, scrolling up seconds passed before I got to the bottom. So let's just say he's been playing for a long time, and he's very success's
Yes.
If you're interested in more of his general history as a professional gamer, it's actually pretty cool. There's a lot of cool shit to look into.
Where's he where's he from?
Japan.
He is actually from Japan?
I don't know what area. I think he's born in 1982 or 83.
Okay.
Like I said, he's in
A
his
lot of
30s.
people consider that old for those.
Oh, yeah. And he still plays. I think he does Twitch, and I think he might still show up in Evo here and there. But it's worth looking into because it's very cool.
Yeah.
But we're going to focus on one specific moment.
The most famous video. Oh, I love it.
So, on August 1st at California State Polytechnic University, the Street Fighter III Third Strike Finals were happening at the Evolution Championship 2004, or better known by nerds across the world, EVO.
It just happened not that long ago.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Interesting side note that I read, I was talking to my roommate this morning. Street Fighter was the only game being played on classic cabinets at EVO in 2004 still.
Wow, that was still on cabinets?
Every other game had moved to consoles except
right.
for Street Fighter. They were still playing on cabinets, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's kind of rad. I'm into that.
Oh, side note about that. There's also a big thing about playing on cabinets because Street Fighter 3 wasn't available on like a home console release at the time with fight sticks. They played it on cabinets. And the thing about that is, I don't know if you've ever seen the sticks with the ball on top.
Yeah.
And then they have the sticks with like the bulb.
Oh.
So the stick with the bulb is an American fighting game
It's like
stick.
a slow... Yeah,
It looks like
Yeah.
kind of like a light bulb. And then the Japanese fighting game sticks are the ones that's just a metal bar with a ball. Back when like arcades were a thing, there were companies that made parts in America and parts in Japan. And so all the American fighting games had the bulb and all the Japanese fighting games had the ball. And since this tournament was in America, they were using the American fighting sticks, which since they were still playing it on a cabinet, which a lot of people say put Daigo at a disadvantage because he was used to the other way.
Yeah.
But now most fighting game sticks actually have the Japanese part.
Okay.
So I think the American company that made them went out of business.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
It seems to be a way more
Was it Mad
commonplace.
Catz? I'm getting it now.
Most commonplace fight sticks you see nowadays, even like American made, have that ball too. I think it kind of became the standard.
Right,
you
yeah.
know?
Second side note, I want to do a Mad Catz episode one day.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah, there's also a lot of people who want them to switch. Smash Brothers recently switched some of their tournaments to like the way me and Chris are sitting, where it's like TVs in the middle and then we're on separate TVs.
Why? What's the...
Because a lot of people think that it puts you at a disadvantage to be sitting next to somebody. But like a lot of the
like
fighting games...
psychologically or just...
You can fuck with people a lot more that way.
Oh, okay.
And you can actually look down at people's fight sticks and see what they're doing and stuff like that. But a lot of people like refuse to change it to that for every other fighting game because Smash is the one that never was in the arcades.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's why their community was okay with making that switch, but like Street Fighter, they're like, no, we got to sit next to each other. It's like the old days.
That's
It is,
good.
it is,
yeah.
and that's
I'm all
honestly,
about
like-
romanticizing that. Yeah,
Yes,
that's kinda
precisely.
cool.
That's one of the connections to sports, romanticizing.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fucking baseball guy.
Yep.
A lot of being a fan of baseball is romanticizing
There's certain
the
tradition
concept
in
of
it,
the
yeah.
sport. It's very traditional, weird shit. It's probably like the only thing I'm traditional about, period. It's
Okay.
like me
Yeah, yeah.
So, set to face off in the losers bracket of the semifinals was Daigo Uehara and Justin Wong. I realized on my drive over here, I was like, oh wait, I didn't do anything about him.
Want me to take it?
Yeah, if you
I
know
a
anything
little bit.
about
Okay.
him,
I've
drop it
heard
here.
that name before.
So Justin Wong is obviously Asian, based on the last name.
Just a sidebar, both of these are top tier players of their time. That's
Yeah.
my
Yes.
next line.
Okay.
Yeah. Justin Wong is an American.
Yes.
He was born in New York, and he is very good at fighting games. So the thing about Daigo is known as the Beast. This is a very American versus Japanese thing to look at, kind of. In the past, not so much now. Daigo is a Street Fighter player.
Yeah.
If you go on Justin Wong's Wikipedia page and look at all of the
He
tournaments
plays
he's won,
everything?
he has won first place tournaments in the Killer Instinct, the new one,
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2, 3, and Ultimate, as well as
Jeez.
a couple Street Fighter ones. He's also played in Tekken. He's played in like
yeah, Tekken came
yeah,
up. as,
Man,
like,
that
as
is-
far as
that
he's
is
played
like
in
everything. Any of the
Soul
Axis stuff?
Calibur.
Soul Calibur?
He's played in a lot of Street Fighter. Also, like I said, Mortal Kombat, some Guilty Gear.
Damn.
And like I think he even does Skullgirls. He was the guy our friend Andrew sent us. He's giving out codes for that new fighting game that our friend Andrew is into.
Shit.
That
What
was
the
Justin Wong's Twitter account. 'cause
Wait,
he's-
really? Oh,
'cause
he was the
he's-
one giving away the codes?
He's like getting into that game as well. Like he
I think
plays
Justin
a lot
Wong
of
also
games.
wrote one or two books about the fighting circuits at EVO in the
Wow.
early 2000s and shit.
So,
too.
like, those one-on-one fighters are, like, his fucking jam. Like, he...
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas
Okay.
Daigo focused more on 2D fighters specifically, and if you scroll his tournament list, it's almost exclusively Street Fighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
did he play Street Fighter, like, go from 2 to 3 to
Yes,
4 to
he
5?
played all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why he plays Guile now, because around I think it was Street Fighter 5 where they nerfed Ryu heavily. Ryu was his main character, or Evil Ryu. I think he played in Arcade
Wait,
4.
is it Ryu or Ryu?
Ryu,
Ryu.
yeah, Ryu. Whatever sorry.
Akira?
So it's like, he played that and he switched to Guile when they nerfed him. And
Okay.
even though they brought him back up, I was reading a little bit, he stuck with Guile. I think when he played Evo this year or last year, he still played with Guile.
Cool.
So both were top tier players of their time, like I said. Wong uses Chun-Li, and Daigo uses Ken, despite being known as a
That's some classic character.
Ryu player. So, the stage was set, and the match is on. Also, I think Ken and Ryu like the same characters essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that comes from Street Fighter 1. You could only play as one character, and it was Ryu, and then you just played through the arcade mode and fought different people. And then they added multiplayer to it, and the way they added multiplayer to it was to take the exact same model, mirror it, and then flip the colors.
which is why
So
blue
it was a
and
red.
red.
It was a
funny.
red guy with a white belt instead of a white guy with a red belt, and his hair
Clever.
changed color from brown to blonde, which is where Ken came from. And now in Street Fighter 5, they are similar, but they've differentiated them a lot since then, but
Yeah.
more or less.
All right, so the stage was set and the match was on. During the first round, Daigo lands a special move and taunts Wong with like a come here hand gesture. He lays him out and does like the come here. And he's down on the ground and the crowd just cheers.
Yeah.
So with a little more than half his vitality remaining, Daigo ends up taking round one. There was a little bit of back and forth, but Daigo kind of beat him a little bit, ends up taking the round. Wong answers in kind. He opens the second round by landing a special move and a 20-hit combo on Daigo, and then he goes on to dominate that entire round.
Oh my God.
Daigo does manage to stall Wong with he had a little bit of health left, maybe about 10% of his health left. He gets Wong down to half of his vitality.
Yes.
But
Yeah, I
Wong
remember.
still pushes through and beats him and takes round two. So Wong answered, dominated, beat round two.
Yeah.
Round three. 1v1. Whoever wins this is taking the fucking
It's
cake.
so epic. Was this streamed at the time? Because the video...
No, the
No.
video is off of a camera with a
Yes.
VHS tape.
I-
in it.
okay.
And apparently,
With a VHS
apparently
tape?
there was a video
Holy
posted
shit.
this year
An
Of like a
H- an
different
HD
angle of
version
it?
Yeah, a
An
guy has
HD
a different
version?
angle. He just found it in some
Okay,
of his
because
stuff. He
when
was
I
like, "Holy
watched
shit,
this,
what's
that
this?"
the video is so incredible, and I don't know who took it. Like, I
Yeah.
wonder if that person has any credit to like capturing
Seth
one of
Killian
them.
took
Wait,
it. Seth
know that
Killian,
name.
who went
Why
on
don't-
to work for Capcom and
my
helped
God.
make Street Fighter 4, and he now works for Riot and is helping make whatever fighting game they're
Wow,
making.
good for him.
With the Rising Thunder people.
So, the round starts off slow. Wong is turtling, which is a technique of playing very conservatively, and then you retaliate.
Yeah.
You make them play a little shitty because they have to attack you. Most fighting games punish people who turtle, but this didn't do so much. And Wong's moves are working. They seem to be getting under Daigo's skin. He keeps risking attacking, and twice Wong lands a special move, which is the special move he won the first round with.
Okay.
One of Chun-Li's moves, and he lands those combos. He's dwindling down Daigo's health bar. Twice he lands those moves. Daigo
It seems
has
like it's over, yeah.
Yeah. Wong's probably about almost 80% to full health at this point, and then Daigo's about 10% of his vitality left. With about 10% of his vitality left, Daigo begins to fight back. He lands a few of those classic Hadokens. He lands probably 2 or 3 of them and manages to fight back. He also gets a grab on Wong and throws him down to the ground, and then gets another Hadoken and throws him over. So it's like, oh, cool, this is kind of coming back.
Yeah.
He gets Wong's health down to under half. Unfortunately, Wong lands an unblocked low kick, and it puts Daigo on his last pixel of vitality. If
like
you
to
look
the
at
point
the
where
video,
it's like you don't-
you
yeah.
cannot see how much health he has remaining. So, instead of running out the 26 seconds remaining, Wong decides he's going to put the match away. At this point, any special move will end the game, because special moves do a small amount of damage,
No matter
even if
what,
they're blocked.
even if they're blocked.
If you block a special move, it still does damage.
Yeah, it's called chip damage.
Yeah.
For those.
So
don't
Wong
know.
goes for the same move he's been doing all day and getting success with. Chun-Li's multi-hit Super Art 2 move, Hoyoku-sen. Hoyoku-sen, or Fanning Phoenix Wing.
Yeah.
So, instead of moving, Daigo goes for the impossible move, a parry, which is an incredibly difficult maneuver where you have to move forward to the opponent at the exact time the hit lands within
Every
6 of 60 frames of the hit animation.
Yep.
Jesus.
Around 1/10 of a second.
Fuck.
It's risky, but if successful, you can block an attack without taking any damage.
Yeah, the thing about parrying is in Street Fighter is that there is no... When you block, you get pushed back.
Yeah.
And for supers, there's chip damage, but also you have to recover from the block animation. Parrying has no recover animation. So if you parry somebody's punch, you can then punch back immediately without having to recover,
Yes.
which means you can punish them.
So, Daigo predicted, because he had to, and made his first move before Wong even began his attack. And the parry lands. And then he does the same 10th of a second timing maneuver on all the remaining 14 hits of the combo, counters a final kick in midair, and then goes into a 12-hit combo, ending with Ken's Rising Knee, Super Art Move 3, Hurricane Thunderclap Leg, winning the round
What
in
are the
epic
odds?
fashion.
Oh, the crowd
The
lost
crowd
its
goes
mind.
absolutely
Yeah, like-
fucking wild.
I have an idea for those listening.
Yeah.
I think... Do you
Just
want
want
to
to play
the
the
audio
last few
of the
seconds of
crowd
it?
from it?
Yeah.
All right. I have it up on my
It's the
phone.
most uproarious, contagious thing. If I saw that in person, yeah.
You watch this video.
It
If you're listening
captures,
to this,
yeah.
you haven't
That's
seen
in it.
it.
Please do yourself a favor and watch this video.
Yeah,
Watch
it's
this
like
fucking
esports
video.
in a
It'll
nutshell.
give you goosebumps even if you've never known
I'm getting
nothing
goosebumps
about
just
Street Fighter.
talking about
I
it.
know,
Not even
like I
joking.
don't remember, and I would faint if I saw that live in
But
person. Like,
just
it's
like
so
the thing,
wild.
like the radio thing of
fucking
Al Michaels
crazy.
being like, "Do you believe in miracles?" Like this.
This is a
Yeah.
Do You
audio.
Believe in
All right,
Miracles
hold on.
moment.
Ready?
Is this a YouTube
Hot
ad?
little intro.
Yo,
This
Let's
is
cut
intro.
this out.
Evo moment 37.
Rare footage of Daigo actually angry.
These announcers had no idea what they were about to like.
Turtle style. Overcome Rao. Now on the verge of putting Daigo down 1-0.
There's him Hadoken and coming back.
Yeah.
Then the low kick.
I can like visualize it.
That's when he lands the fucking uppercut knee. Dude. It is
It's
one of the
fucking
it is one of the
incredible.
most chilling and incredible things
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
It's literally like
You'd
I was
think it
reading,
was
he had-
scripted, like,
he
it's
had
so
to predict,
perfect. It's so
because
perfect.
you can't actually get the parry once the move starts.
yeah.
He
Yeah.
had to predict when he's going to do it. Parry, 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 15 times, counters a kick in midair, goes into a 12-point combo, and ends it with a rising kick.
yeah,
KO.
oh my God.
Dude, the crowd is fucking wild. They rise.
Yes, to put this example on, it is like playing Guitar Hero on that mod where there's no notes on the highway.
Yeah.
And just playing it based solely on like the audio and memory.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But doing it with a crowd that size,
Yeah.
and also
How does
completely
heart
off rhythm,
not explode?
because you have to memorize when the exact 6 frames that each hit in her super happens.
Yeah.
Tenth of a second, 15 times
When
in a
they
row.
released Street Fighter 3 for the Xbox 360, when
Yeah.
they remade it, there is a challenge mode in it, and the final challenge is
It's
called
the
Evo
Daigo
Moment
parry.
37.
Daigo Move 37.
That's
yeah.
good.
Where you have to, they put you in that exact situation, and then a computer does Chun-Li's
Yeah.
parry, and you have to win the match.
Jesus.
And
how
they got Daigo himself to try it, and he couldn't
couldn't
pull
do it
off
again? Like
No.
that's how like one of a
He
kind.
did
this-
it. He
this
did it
moment?
eventually, but like
Wow.
he didn't do it first try. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't something that like
How did-
he can just
Do you think the world just slowed down to him at the time? Like,
guess
yeah,
I
so.
don't know. The moment, dude. The
transcended.
crowd goes fucking crazy. That
Yeah.
whole moment. They rising as he's parrying.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
the whole
combo
room is like,
"Ah!"
yeah.
As soon as he gets the KO, dude, fucking people get up. They're jumping in the
Oh,
air. They're
I
fucking
would.
screaming and they're
It
yelling,
makes you want to
dude.
flip the nearest table.
Dude, even
Yeah.
watching it nowadays,
Oh, yeah.
me and Don watched it this morning.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I'm sitting here like writing, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
watch this. I'm doing a play-by-play, and he watched it. He's like, fucking nuts, dude. It's insane.
How much money was at stake for that?
I don't
Does
know.
anyone
not
know?
a lot.
Yeah, it probably
Yeah, it was
garbage.
before
It
now.
doesn't matter.
Evo was at a college, and it wasn't called Evo yet.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
Well, it didn't have the stakes of 2 nuclear powers squaring off. But both of these semi-final showdowns hold equally legendary status and a majestic nature for their respective bases.
Fucking A.
Daigo ended up losing the grand final to Kenji KO Obata, but it doesn't matter because the Daigo parry is one of the most memorable
Yeah.
and precious moments in competitive gaming
I hope to
history.
achieve something
or
like that
Evo
someday.
Moment 37, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's important, and I think to me, honestly, it's kind of like a nice little show that competitive gaming is on par with every other sport.
Yeah.
The reason I opened up with the Miracle on Ice is to kind of go with the idea that competitive gaming has everything that makes sports sports. It has history, epic moments, it has
Rivalries.
stadiums,
Yeah.
rivalries. It has all the things that make
Yeah. Upsets.
sports of competitive nature iconic,
Yeah.
and I think this is a good case.
Yeah.
I'm confident that it'll find its respect in the same way. Like
I
it's
think that
it's
you won't find
happening.
anybody
Building a fucking stadium for Overwatch in
Yeah.
Philadelphia right now.
Yeah.
You won't. You
The crowds are crazy.
This moment, and I shit you not, is the reason why I think that the fighting game community
is the best.
is the best
Yeah,
esports
and a lot of
community
people
out
think
there.
this helped revive Evo.
It did. It
Yeah.
absolutely did. And the reason
this
it's-
got passed around
The reason
a
it's
lot.
called Evo Moment 37 is because, like I said, they just recorded matches,
Mm-hmm.
and like the dude uploaded it just like Evo Moment 1, Evo Moment 2, and he
Yeah.
just uploaded this one. This was the 37th
The
one he
37th
uploaded.
one, yeah.
Right. Wow.
And
That's
that was it. That's
okay.
why
I
it's
was
called
wondering
Evo
why
Moment
what tied
37.
into that.
And then he just like sent it to a friend and was like, "Yo, you gotta check this shit out. You weren't there." And then like it spread like wildfire in
Holy
that
shit.
community, and with good reason.
So that's my story.
That's a good one.
I thought it was a great story.
I'm glad you brought
It's
that.
I love that.
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
that
I'm glad we got to
fucking
talk
moment.
about it. I want more people to know about it.
No, that's a fun one.
If you don't, I'm sure you do know about it. Even if you do, go rewatch the video. It's
it's one of those
it's so
things.
fucking awesome.
It's one of those things where like
I'm garbage at
people,
fighting
the
games,
people
and I
listening
love
to
this.
it, like the people who know it, are already just like, "Ugh,"
Yeah.
and then the people who don't know it can look it up, and it'll affect them the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, to your point near the end, like if you don't understand hockey, you can watch the end of that game and understand like the weight
The
of
importance,
everything and
yeah.
the importance. Even if you don't play video games, you can watch that video and
know
understand
what's
going
happening.
on. Yeah.
like
You can tell-
how
Yeah,
fucking
a comeback.
insane
we
that
watched-
is.
we
comeback.
watched it at my house not too long ago with a group of people, and it was like you get a reaction, like
yeah.
like it's no, that's fucking awesome. All right, so the thing I'm bringing to share today, I have actually read about before, although never really dived into, as it doesn't really pertain to us here in the old U.S. of A. But it does
Oh, well, then I
affect
don't care.
it does affect those in Australia. And
Bunch of criminals, dude.
And while they may have figured out how to stop the epidemic of mass shooting, something we're still too corrupt and stupid to figure out,
Getting real.
they have to find a solution regarding the use of drugs in media, specifically video games. Now, this issue certainly isn't anything particularly new, as it already has come into play with multiple releases. But the reason you might have seen it pop up again now, though, is that, at least for me anyway, I was scrolling through Kotaku the other week, as I do, and a silly a silly headline kind of caught my eye, reading DayZ will be banned completely in Australia. This was posted on August 9th of this month, so this is
mate, it's not called DayZ. We don't want it.
Now, for those unfamiliar, DayZ is an open-world zombie survival game focused on online multiplayer. It's based on an Arma 2 mod of the same name. It's for non-Switch consoles and the PC. I've never played it because I don't care. And it's also already out in all parts of the world, including to Aussies, which makes this ban kind of even crazier. That is until I read the more insane article and found out why, and it was because the game was soon set to feature the most dangerous illicit substance known to man. Weed.
Yeah.
Yo, side note, is PUBG banned in Australia? Because you pop painkillers like nobody's business in that game.
We'll get it a timeout if a company made it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, we'll get into it. It's probably not called painkillers there.
I think it is.
Is it?
It's called Happy.
In Australia, maybe
That's
not.
what I'm saying.
Maybe
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
I don't know.
So basically, this game was in early access for fucking forever. Occasionally, things like weapons and items are added into it to change stuff up. The developers, I think they're from They're from Czechoslovakia, right?
Yeah, that game looks gray and boring.
Yeah.
So it's probably great. There goes all our Eastern Bloc listeners.
But they didn't see any issue with putting cannabis into the game. It already had guns and zombie gore, and I think booze, probably. There are food and drinks that you need to consume in it. I feel like since it is one of those survival games, after all, there's probably even medical supplies, like, as Austin said, like painkillers in there, too. They're in a lot of games, like from Left 4 Dead to...
Developers Bohemia Interactive, and they're
Max
from
Payne.
Prague in the Czech Republic. So
Okay.
yes.
All right. But what made the pot so different? Well, all the consumables I just mentioned give the player certain attributes. Australia has very strict guidelines, not on the raw feature of drugs being portrayed in games, but the use as if it is related to any in-game incentives or rewards.
So if it's like, if you just smoke weed and it does nothing, whatever.
It's fine.
But if you smoke weed and you have a great old time, you get a big old boner. You
Cannot
can do whatever you want with it.
You can't show it in a beneficial way. You can't show it in a beneficial way.
Weird for a country founded by criminals. Go on.
I was waiting. I want to have a
Sorry.
timer of how long it took to.
I already said that before. Sorry if we have any Australian listeners.
No, they
Well, I
love a good
kangaroos.
dab. They'll be all right.
Yeah. There's a bunch of bands from your country that I like. That's fine.
But yeah, you cannot show them in a "this won't make your character do anything better" kind of way. As in this game, it was going to be shown restoring health. In like a passive way. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. It's not like weed is a natural painkiller or anything.
So,
Fucking government.
if huffing a bong in GTA will just make your dude trip all over the place and fall over like a dum-dum, that's fine. If you're trying to smoke up in the Narc remake to earn a little life back, though, then you get the fuck out of here. Not allowed. And this goes way beyond weed, of course. Trying to bulk up your football players with steroids and blitz the league, banned.
Should have been fucking banned anyway.
Now, some other companies were able to overturn this by having the devs simply replace the problematic item in question with something else.
It's not weed, it's Eid.
Opiates in State of Decay 2 changed to vitamins. Morphine in Fallout 3.
If I've ever known vitamins to do something, it's make everything better and not just be useless blocks of chalk or gummies.
Did you guys, you played Fallout 3, right?
Yes.
Remember the fictional drug Med-X in the game?
No, I only did Psycho.
Okay. So Fallout 3 had a fictional kind of like item in it that gave health back called Med-X, and that was changed because of Australia. Like, because originally in the game files it was morphine, but that wasn't allowed.
Yeah,
so,
there's a bunch of whole drug using system in Fallout.
But that swap affected its portrayal in every territory too after that. Because it's just, much of the time, it's way simpler for developers to just have this universal sort of.
Meanwhile, they're holding esports tournaments in Australia, and everybody's on speed, and nobody cares. Can we talk about this?
They just call it something else. It's fine.
Yeah, I already called it something else.
Other people had to fight it by either making larger changes, like when Saints Row 4 had no choice but to drop an entire mission in the country where your hero would light up some hot alien kush, only for it to give them simulated superpowers. And that drug obviously isn't even fucking real. Even Gearbox had to deal with it last year in We Happy Few by furiously explaining that the entire context of the also not real happiness drug in the game wasn't meant to reflect the world in a positive way.
Yeah, it's supposed to be irony.
Yeah. But that was just so they could get that game unbanned. Like, that's how strict these
Xanax
rules are.
Just gonna keep coming up with analogs.
But I don't know, it's all kind of nuts now. But now I'm gonna shoot through a quick timeline here of what happened specifically with DayZ.
Good word, dude. You're gonna shoot up some
No
animals?
drugs,
Yeah.
no guns. If you're racist, come on in there.
I'm gonna shoot up some info for all you guys.
Ugh.
This is also we can, roll our eyes and move on to Austin's because this is real dumb. So by May 2019, DayZ is finally out for those consoles I mentioned in all regions. I think it's been in pre-release since 2012 or 2013. The game was rated MA15 there. They apparently use the same metric for all their media, like movies and games have the same rating system, which I find kind of interesting.
Huh. That's not the worst idea.
Yeah, so I think 18 plus is their top one.
Peggy 13.
Yeah, that's the European.
Yeah,
Now, June 4th, a short time later, following an application from local distributors, 5 Star Games, to have the product kind of sold physically through stores, the game is then granted its RC, or Rejected Classification rating, along with the quote from their board reporting stating, "Through general gameplay, the player is able to collect and use a variety of equipment, supplies, and weaponry. One of the options to restore the player's health is a marijuana joint labeled cannabis, which is denotated by a cannabis bud in the player's inventory."
Dope.
What a
Is it
fucking
indica or
boomer
sativa?
sentence.
Isn't it? Got one of them fucking...
Marijuana poison my
marijuana
kids.
cigarette. Now, this succeeded their max 18 plus rating I mentioned, and was thus halted from going gold with the digital versions, like the Steam one that's been offered there for more than 6 years, being set to be taken down soon as well. Remember, the actual item they are referring to is not even in the fucking game yet. The publisher only revealed that through blog updates surrounding the game for their packet. So it's like...
This is a game where you can rob somebody at gunpoint, force them to take off their pants and give it to you.
Yes.
And then leave them for dead. But a little pot for health is too much.
A month later, the team at Bohemia Interactive tried to fight it through the automated IARC process, except the official classification board has the power to override those ratings with their own. So that quickly got squashed.
Right.
So, the Australian ratings board pretty much will always hold the... Yeah.
What a bunch of cunts. It's okay, because it's
Good
about
one,
Australia.
man. Good one.
So where's our solution? Well, Bohemia, not wanting to promote any nasty crime through their foreign propaganda, eventually just caved and complied with the ACB, editing all versions of the game internationally across the planet to no longer host the Wacky Tobacco at all outright. The small group found it just too impractical to create and maintain separate versions that would affect its online ecosystem, which is a way better answer than having to separate Australian players, considering how many of their users who join each other across region.
Yeah.
Imagine the only other solution would have been to take the weed out of the Australian one, and then only players in Australia could play with players in Australia. They couldn't play with the fucking pot smokers from the United States
That'd
and
be
Europe.
funny if they could, though.
There's a huge crossover between Australian and American gamers. I
Yeah.
come across a lot of Australian dudes playing online games.
Yeah.
There's a big gaming community there.
Yeah, totally. But this was all announced on the 12th of this month, with the studio saying, at the moment, we are editing the global version of DayZ so it will fit into the board's requirements. The key objective is to keep the gameplay as authentic as it was, so players are not affected by this change.
A game is not even worth it in the first place.
Then on August 21st, last week, this is a very, current story, the title's MA15 rating was formally restored, allowing it to once again be returned to all its digital stores, as well as being cleared for its release to shelves, except this time it was pot-free. I mean, even though it never actually made it into the game in the first place anyway.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's the end of this tale of Reefer Madness. It just goes to show each country's policies can sometimes have their ups and downs. We decriminalized probably one of the most innocuous, benign psychoactive drugs out there, and they have like an $18 minimum wage or something.
Yeah.
Also, Japan
Go into the bush, smack a couple menthols, my Sheila.
Also,
That's all the style choices I'm gonna know.
Didn't even once use the word boomerang. Japan is apparently, like, I don't know if anyone knows, even more fucking bananas with their illegal substances
Oh
than...
no, it is
like,
punishing
yeah.
drug use over there.
Yeah, they will they will go through extra steps to erase your history. There was that that voice actor who he was in the Yakuza games. He voiced Olaf in the Japanese version of Frozen in Kingdom Hearts, and there was like a tip where they grabbed him and he possessed a small amount of cocaine on his person, not like as a dealer, as a as
a guy
as
hanging
user.
out partying with cocaine.
Yeah, and he was not only prosecuted, but they actually went out of their way to like pull everything he ever started off the shelf. He was a musician, like he had
Jesus.
records for sale.
I only know this-
all the records
Yeah.
were pulled off. Like
Jeez.
that's like
Oh, yeah.
it's-
Well, you're talking about a society that was been incredibly conservative, except for like the last 60 years,
Yeah.
and then more incredibly like Japan has only been what people think it is for only about 60, 50 years.
And because that was
you know what I mean?
and
It's
like
not like
because that was a Japanese game, that affected the release of that game worldwide.
oh yeah.
Like, video games are made by a huge team of people. One person does some blow, and it affects the release in the
I know
world.
this because obviously
like,
I'm huge into skating, and Tokyo is a great place to skate.
right.
Marijuana and skateboarding are kind of fucking hand in hand.
Yeah.
And there's
Like,
like
there's a lot of
bunch
cross
of
in
shit
that.
I've read about fucking people going over there to skate with pot and shit like that, and just like the shit that goes down. It's insane.
It's not, well, it's just like imagine if we controlled our media that way. Think about all of
Yeah,
American.
we just do it behind the scenes, and then we call it
Barely,
brainwashing.
like if anything, like we like romantically celebrate it. When you think about some of the biggest rock stars and eccentric
Oh, yeah,
filmmakers
well,
and
yeah,
artists,
the drug
they're all
use,
fucking
yeah.
crazy drug users. So it's like imagine if you go into a Best Buy, if any actor, producer, director, musician, artist, whoever involved in any of these films or CDs or video games on our shelves, if any of them did cocaine, pull them off. Like, what would that?
Yeah, nothing,
It'd be
dude.
barren.
Nothing. Even pop stars do cocaine, dude.
No, it's like I know that.
If you're living in LA, you've done cocaine. That's like that cocaine capital of the fucking world. I'm not even joking.
No, like obviously I know we kind of created an epidemic of prescription drug use,
Look, settle down.
but but
Are you saying we as in America?
Or as
yeah,
in
not
us
three specifically.
First of all, I am not responsible for the opioid crisis.
Yeah. I'll have you know.
I don't know.
It's a good
Now that
place
we've
to
talked
end
about
it.
the opioid crisis.
But and also one little last thing I just thought I would kind of throw in here. When I was reading over a list of all the games refused a rating in Australia, my absolute favorite example was Mark Echo's Getting Up Contents Under Pressure, as it promoted graffiti when you tag stuff in the game with spray paint.
That's what that is.
Yeah, kind of uptight for a bunch of
Criminals?
over there. Am I right?
They haven't been
I'll
criminals
stop
for a long
dogging on
time.
Australia.
No, Australia's great.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
people are great.
The animals
But just
will
like
try to
everywhere
kill
else
you.
on Earth, the government is garbage. Rule yourselves.
The government in Australia is actually not garbage. It's just like, just let people do whatever they want. Who gives a shit if they smoke weed?
But that's all I've got with me for today. I thought that was kind of a yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, My part of this episode is going to be about the cell processor in the PlayStation 3.
Oh, crap.
We've done...
Is that the thing preventing Metal Gear Solid 4 from being released on any other platform?
Yes.
Okay.
It's also the thing preventing from people who own Skyrim on the PlayStation 3 from finishing the game. Now, I've talked in the past, I've dogged a lot on the cell processor in the past.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened
It's
to our
easy.
Xbox 360 episode, go ahead and do it. Absolutely terrible idea to put in a game console. Absolutely. But I've decided to take this moment that I've been given to give credit where credit is due. The cell processor was not developed as a processor to play video games on. The cell processor was developed as an advanced processor between Sony, Toshiba, and IBM, or STI, as they were known.
Sexually transmitted infection.
Sony, Toshiba, IBM.
Oh, okay.
God. Trying to get dirty.
I a little bit resent you for making me hold in a laugh with a mouthful of Bud Light. I couldn't swallow it. I had to just
had one of mine in the
linger while I was
clubs,
laughing.
These processors are designed with basically a normal processor core and then 8 additional processor cores that are only able to help the first one, which is why they're terrible for video games. All right, so Wikipedia puts it like this, and this is not going to make any sense to anybody, including me, but I'm going to read it. The cell architecture includes a memory coherence architecture that emphasizes power efficiency, prioritizes bandwidth over latency, and favors peak computational throughput over simplicity of program code. For these reasons, Cell is widely regarded as a challenging environment for software developers. The architecture will not be widely used unless it is adopted by all software development community, which it probably won't be. However, Cell's strengths may make it useful for scientific computing regardless of its mainstream successes. So like I said, terrible idea in a game console, insanely difficult to program for.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're running simulations of things like physics and space and weather and the human body, all you're doing is just calculating numbers and then you're using those numbers to calculate other numbers.
That's the quantum computer argument. People are all hype about quantum computers, except that quantum computers would be useless for everything except for simulating the universe, simulating physics, simulating the human body.
Right.
Things that require huge amounts of numbers, then you can calculate fast. That's cool. But for everything else, we're pretty much here.
Right. Not for playing Heavy Rain, is what you're saying.
For example, as I said in our Xbox 360 episode, the Xbox 360 used an Intel Xeon processor. Mm-hmm. It had 3 cores.
Xeon, that's what Superman's allergic to, right?
Yeah.
Allergic to?
It had 3 cores in it, and the PlayStation 3 processor was 1 processor core plus 8 additional processor cores as cell processors are laid out.
That's so many more cores.
What a lot of developers did, Bethesda, I'm looking at you, is just completely ignore the 8 additional cores and just program on the 1 core, which made their games run like absolute garbage. And what a lot of Sony's developers did was find out how to compute their physics and their texture loading based on the cell processor's architecture, which is why Last of Us looks so fucking good. Because Naughty Dog became an expert at that by the end.
Naughty Dog's kind of known for...
They know that hardware inside and out.
Yeah.
They're
really
magicians.
good,
It was very difficult to develop for, and the processor is only as good as the GPU, which the GPU in the PS3 was good, but not great. But despite this, cell processors are very good at doing something called floating point math.
Sounds fucking dope.
Yeah. Basically, for those of you that don't know, I'm going to say this term a lot. You're going to hear this term a lot because we got new consoles coming out.
Uh-oh. Teraflops?
Floating point math is measured in something called flops. Now, flops stands for floating point operations per second. Well, it's a shorten. It's not an acronym. And like I said, a flop means that a computer system can do 1 floating point math operation in 1 second. So obviously, we're going to be talking about things like gigaflops and teraflops.
Yeah.
A teraflop means that your computer can do 1 trillion floating point math operations in a second. A gigaflop would be 1 billion. And a petaflop, which will come up a lot, is 1 quadrillion equations in a second.
That's like Data he can do.
Yeah.
That's from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Shut up, nerd. In addition to this, the way cell processors are architectured enables 2 things. One thing called cluster computing.
I've heard of this.
Where you basically hook a bunch of cell processors up to one another in a chain, and then they pass the math off to each other, essentially becoming one giant processor. In addition, it can do something called distributed computing, which is cluster computing through the internet.
Folding at home.
I know this might be boring to some people, but it's important to know because now I'm just going to rattle off a whole bunch of numbers that won't make any sense if you didn't know this stuff. So
6, 9,
12.
4, 20.
Hey, that makes sense, buddy.
No, I covered the pot story this week.
Yes, but just like when people bought the PS2 because they're like, hey, it's cheaper than a DVD player, the PS3 was the first and I think only, although I can't
cheaper than a
confirm
barbecue grill.
it's cheaper than a server blade because the PS3 is the first and maybe only commercially available implementation of a cell processor.
Oh, shit.
This combined with the ability of the PS3 at launch, listen to our PSN episode if you want to know why I have to specify at launch to run Linux.
Yeah.
This made for some pretty interesting implementations and uses of the PS3.
So people were just buying PS3s because their cell processor, the cost of a PS3 is cheaper than the cost of just buying a cell processor outright.
Wow.
But this was the thing that was patched out to
That they had the lawsuit.
to prevent people from hacking and people sued. You're going to find out why they sued because it turns out that taking that out actually negatively affected the world and medical and physics research.
Ooh, whoops.
But to give you some idea, one PlayStation 3 used in this way for just floating point math is the equivalent of 30 PCs of the time around 2006 when the PS3 was released running in a cluster.
Holy shit.
So take that, PC Master Race.
No wonder why it was $600.
Hashtag PS3 Master Race.
This implementation became so popular that it is labeled the PlayStation 3 cluster. Basically, there are so many laboratories around the world that are using PS3s in cluster that it has its own name.
Now, this
the
is
PlayStation
only
3
the
cluster.
fat PS3s that, right?
Only the fat ones.
Yeah, not the slim guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it all started with a group called the Innovative Computing Laboratory at the University of Tennessee.
Get your top loaders out of here.
They did some research which allowed them to create specialized versions of Linux that would let scientists program their equations into this without having to know a ton of code, because like I said, it's very hard to code for this.
Yeah.
It was developed to take full advantage of this cluster computing feature. And the first publicly known instance of this, which I have labeled Case 1, is a cluster implementation. In summer of 2007, I'm gonna fuck this name up so bad, but Gaurav Khanna, a physics
didn't
professor,
sound that complicated.
a physics professor at Dartmouth, bought 8 fat PS3s to develop what he dubbed the PlayStation 3 Gravity Grid. He took the code from that innovative computing laboratory, got his 8 PS3s, put them together in a router, put Linux on all of them, ran this code, and created a cluster that was made to perform astrophysical simulations of supermassive black holes.
Dude, exactly.
Damn,
I was
holy
just
shit.
looking this up because I was thinking like, I was reading a while back like how much data one go through of CERN produces.
Yeah.
Now CERN is the Large Hadron Collider, the one that's in Sweden and France and all that shit. Which, funny enough, sidebar, terrified me when I was a kid.
We have a little one here in the United States.
Yeah, it's in New York.
Yeah.
It's in what's the baseline? Montauk. It's in Montauk. Incredible scientific thing. Will not destroy the world. Anybody who is fearful, listen to me. It is not dangerous. It is feared because it's like there's just a bunch of misinformation. Just ignore it. CERN programs 25 gigabytes per second when they're coming into the fucking thing after the simulations they run.
Man.
25 gigs a second. Dude, that's insane. That's fucking insane.
Well, we'll get there,
exactly.
but that's not that insane.
Maybe this is just from this one experiment, but this says 600 million events per second, 1 million bytes produced at the rate of 6 million events per second.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
That's a lot more. So this grid of 8 PS3s, he bought them because running some tests, the 8 PS3s outperformed his previous cluster of over 100 Intel Xeon processors, the thing that was in the Xbox 360.
Right, yeah.
And he also was able to build this. Sony actually helped him. They sent him some additional hardware because it was good press. It was like, yo, check it out. The PS3's not just playing fucking Uncharted. You can save the world with this shit.
So is this the inverse of when a bunch of Americans were afraid that Saddam bought a bunch of PS2s to help calibrate missiles?
That's not entirely untrue. These
Does
experiments.
anybody else remember that? Or
Yeah,
am I-
yeah.
Okay.
These experiments came because people did use PS2s for the same purpose. But
Yes.
the PS3 was just like
Of course.
insanely good
Yeah,
at it.
yeah. I just that was the first thing that came to my mind regarding the story. Except this is helping people like in the medical fields.
Oh, we'll get to missiles.
Oh, okay.
So
Good. I was
so-
worried.
this garnered him a lot of publicity, and it garnered Sony a lot of publicity, to the point where Sony worked with him and they actually published a guide for free on how to set this system up at home.
Man.
So anybody who wanted to do research could do it for fractions of a penny on the dollar to a normal.
Who wants to go do some research?
Case 2, distributed network. Stanford University had a project called,
What?
say it,
Saddam's
Folding at
missile
home.
Folding at home. Sorry,
Saddam.
I thought you were referencing the
which may sound
folding at home.
it may sound familiar to people out there who owned a PS3. In 2007, a folding at home application was natively brought to the PlayStation 3 as a part of the system's 1.6 firmware update.
Yeah.
Folding at home was a system that is used to simulate protein folding,
Yeah.
which is a thing that happens naturally in the body. However, when protein folds improperly, it can cause certain diseases to motor functions and stuff like that. Diseases like Alzheimer's,
Bad.
Parkinson's,
Bad.
Huntington's disease,
Bad.
cystic fibrosis,
Yeah.
It's all bad.
fibrosis, and several forms of cancer.
Yeah.
So the point,
bad.
and obviously, like, you can't analyze how somebody's proteins fold when they're alive.
They didn't-
It's not like
uh,
live time. It's about predictions.
Yes.
It's about doing simulations to predict things under
They
certain
didn't
circumstances.
do a particularly good job of saying what that feature was.
No.
Like, was it turned off by default on your PS3 and then you had to
Yes.
go in to turn it on?
Yes.
Because, like, I remember navigating that menu or the interface to like, see that, and I was like, what the fuck is... Like, I don't know what it is.
I one time in college, we all got drunk, and I put folding at home on, and we just watched the proteins fold.
Wait, they actually had a feature where you could...
There was a
There was
visualization thing.
Wow, I didn't know that. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Holy
This
shit.
could be done by launching the application.
Okay.
And it could either be set so that you had to have the application open to donate your computing power, or you could set on a feature, which I did, which I don't think a lot of people did know about, but you could make it so that if you left the PS3 on the cross-media bar, the main menu,
Yeah.
and it went idle for something like a minute,
It would just go to it?
it would just go and
Oh,
launch
that's cool.
Folding at Home in the background.
Huh.
This was hugely successful. Folding at Home was already a thing that people could do on their computers and stuff like that, but it was hugely successful, and
This
the
was
PS3
more
helped.
accessible, yeah.
So much so that
Is this like a Bitcoin thing? Like you just run in the background so they borrow your processing
Theoretically, there's a
power?
very similar...
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is like Bitcoin, but it's used
For
it's
good
medical-
purpose.
Well, I meant the
Yeah.
bad part of Bitcoin where they try to steal your processing
Yes.
power in the background.
It's
Yeah,
like
that'd
that
be,
if
good.
they
Yeah, but
used-
it's to help cure cancer rather than
it was that
make
for
money.
cancer research instead of making rich douchebags richer.
Yeah.
Folding at Home has been recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the most powerful distributed network in the world, and also the first to pass 1 petaflop. As of 2011,
Is a petaflop higher than a teraflop?
it's quadrillion. Remember I said it earlier?
Oh,
Quadrillion
yeah.
floating point operations per second.
That's a lot.
As of 2011, Folding at Home was running at 9.6 petaflops, with 1.6 of those coming from the PlayStation 3.
Dang.
There are still some active PS3 users who are running this program, apparently, and as of 2018, they are running well above 100 petaflops.
I would be running it if the stupid PS3 you gave me didn't die.
I'd be running it if if it was on the Slim one or whatever.
Yeah. Or on the PS4. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This console's got so hot.
Another distributed networks took note of this. It's Case 3 and 4. The success of Folding at Home led to a couple similar systems. There's a system for biomedical research in Barcelona named the PS3 Grid, which runs similar simulations. It is basically a free-to-use computer where people run their PS3s through a distributed network, and then people can use that space for whatever research they need it for. It's like a public good thing. Another one called E-Hits Lightning, which simulates molecular docking. Don't know what that is. Something with physics. But their program runs 30 times faster on one PS3 than it does on a PC, and it can be networked, which took simulations that were industry standard taking weeks to months to run and shortened them down to days and sometimes even hours. And this was all had to do with some sort of medical physics molecular
Right.
thing. I don't know. Couldn't find that much information on it, but seems like it's doing a good job.
Cool.
And now we move on to the U.S. government.
Uh-oh.
Do you think that they're researching how to fold protein? Nope, missiles. Case 4 cluster. The most famous example that a lot of our listeners have probably heard of is something called the Condor cluster. This is a supercomputer in the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratories in New York. This system is built using a cluster of 1,760 PlayStation 3s. It was built in 2010, and at the time was officially labeled as the 33rd largest supercomputer in the world.
Jesus.
The system was said to be capable of 500 teraflops.
And it still couldn't run Skyrim?
500 teraflops, making it the fastest single cluster computer and the fastest computer period being used by the U.S. Department of Defense. The system was built for radar enhancement, pattern recognition, and satellite imagery processing, as well as artificial intelligence.
And Sony is like cool with all this, right? Like, I mean, it was a
Yes.
advertised feature.
It was an advertised feature.
Like
They did take it out, but apparently they did help. Like, if one of these 1,760 PS3s broke, Sony did help,
It's just
replace it with a fat one.
everything you're saying, like the PlayStation 3 might be one of the most bizarre consoles.
It is. It
ever
really
made.
is.
Like, this is so strange.
But why? Why would the U.S. government use PlayStation 3s instead of fucking servers?
That's a
It
good
seems
question.
weird.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it because they contract everything out?
Is it because they wanted to play
kinda.
Little Big Planet
no.
in the off hours?
Condor was built using the old fat PS3s, as those were the only ones that could still run Linux, and it cost the U.S. government, a total of $2 million to build, including some additional graphics processors for image processing and some servers for coordinating tasks. Each PlayStation 3, at time of building, cost the government $400 to buy. An equivalent server blade, as I said, would have cost around $10,000.
Whoa.
Which would have made the computer shoot up from 2 to 20 million to build. The PS3 was also insanely energy efficient to run compared to these servers, with the whole system calculated to use around 10% of the power that a similar system made up of these $10,000 server blades would have used.
What in the fuck?
Well, good to know it was a steal for somebody, because I thought that was way too expensive when it came out.
Is this why the PS3 has so many fucking units sold?
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Well, that
'Cause
and,
it was like-
that and FIFA
Yeah.
in Europe or whatever.
Yeah, somebody made a server cluster to play
'Cause
FIFA.
I don't think of a PlayStation 3 as being a successful time for Sony in video games.
Well, no, that's the weird thing about the PlayStation 3 is that eventually it caught up to the 360 in terms of sale, but their hardware and software never actually sold that well.
No.
Hardware in terms of like
The Move?
There's the Move and stuff like that. Yeah, like their games never.
The camera?
Yeah. There's
Fucking
almost
God.
some more like nefarious conspiracy theory thing going on.
Yeah.
That's fun to think about in like a goofy way. But yeah, that's
So,
fucking bonkers.
those are all the examples, the big examples that I can find. There are a lot of people out there who built their own clusters and used it to, I'm sure, I haven't found any examples, but I'm sure somebody is mining Bitcoin using this.
Using a
I'm
PS3.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for an outro, while I did rag on the cell processor pretty hard during our Xbox 360 episode, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. The Xbox 360 may have been better at running Skyrim, but the PS3 seemed to help a lot with physics, biology, and even weapons research. So there is
PS3
that.
better at launching missiles and curing cancer than the 360, I guess.
Yeah. We obviously have better supercomputers today, and Sony removed this feature
Like
for
Watson.
the PS3 Slims, which is unfortunate because the PS3
Yeah.
Slim contains a more power-efficient version of the cell processor in it, but just like how everybody out there, like I said at the beginning, bought their PS2 because it was cheaper than a DVD player, a lot of research labs bought PS3s because it was cheaper than a cluster of high-end server
I thought you were
blades.
going to say cheaper than a Blu-ray player.
That too. Yeah, they used 1,759 PS3s to calculate where the missile was going to go, and one to watch B-movie on Blu-ray. But yeah, that's the end of my
Man.
part.
That's out of this world, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my head is spinning from that. Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, the story is like super fascinating because it's a weird chapter in games that I don't think a lot of people traditionally know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like those stories like weren't exactly covered by gaming outlets like where
Mm-hmm.
I would find them and see them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
All right. You got an
pretty nuts.
outro?
that was our 3 stories. If people are kind of into this format. This is something we can do regularly to break things
Yeah,
up a bit.
sidebar, I'm just looking at stuff over here as we were talking about stuff. Lenovo is the world's largest provider to parts for supercomputers. How come my fucking laptop sucks so bad if they're out there fucking building supercomputers?
I don't know. Maybe you're, calibrating missiles, and that's where all your
Yeah, my
memory's
thing's running
going.
IBM Summit, which is apparently the best supercomputer in the world right now. So,
But yeah, this was a little experiment because we find a lot of topics.
Yeah,
like
we
Chris
research
said,
a lot of stuff simultaneously, and
we
have
find
to
a lot
do,
of
like,
topics that don't necessarily warrant their own episode, but are very interesting, like these three. And so, doing something like this does expand our pool of topics to cover. And I think
Yeah.
if people really enjoy this would be like an ongoing series, like Randy said, to break up the larger multi-part big
Yeah.
stories.
And it was cool. These were these were very different. From
well,
each
very
other,
cool.
too,
And I can
yeah.
already think of some more I'd like to fucking
Yeah,
get.
me
I
too.
already
Yeah.
wrote two.
He
in
did, he's ahead of us
preparation,
now.
Same thing.
But yeah,
Cool.
plugs.
Plugs.
Okay.
Let's do some plugs.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
You can listen to us more on our website, hotbuttoncast.com.
Also, if you have like a girlfriend or a boyfriend, take their phone, download it,
Yeah.
play them at the same time, put one headphone in each ear, and it's basically like it's the same thing.
But
we're
we
getting
get
twice
double.
as many downloads.
Yeah, sneak into your parents' bedroom, and grab
Yeah.
their phones,
Log
and
in.
download the episode.
Hey, and if you go
do
to
it to your-
Target and steal a
read
bunch
from
of
there.
cards, just read off the codes, right? And then email them to us. You know what I mean? That's. I'm just kidding. We're not starting a scam website.
Not? That's how this
just kidding.
started. if you've got a PS3, go turn on
Yeah.
Folding at Home.
Get a bunch of PS3s, link them together, run Linux, make a cluster computer that just downloads our podcast.
Yes.
Fuck, we be the most downloaded like in the web. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fucking
And-
it downloads 1 quadrillion episodes a second.
And fire up a spliff and play Street Fighter 3 Alpha while you're on.
yeah, all right.
Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter Alpha are different games. How many times do I have to
I
tell
can't
you
keep
this?
up with this fucking series. They released Street Fighter 2 a fucking million
It was
times.
Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
There's
Yeah.
2 3s in that title.
There's Street Fighter 3, The Warriors Within. Or wait, that's Alpha.
No, that's
Street
the
Fighter-
Final Fantasy movie.
There's Street Fighter 3, and then there's Street Fighter 3 Second Impact, and then there's Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play that. Don't play DayZ.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was not advocating that in my story.
What were we doing? Plugs.
Oh yeah.
We have a website, hotbuttoncast.com. There, it will link you to our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook. Follow us there for updates. See a bunch of art and weird clips. You let you know when the episodes are out.
Yeah.
You can also go to links through there for iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, stuff like that. You can find us on any podcast service. You can subscribe. That'd be helpful. You want to rate us on iTunes, that would be helpful. And another thing, a feature I put on the website, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. We have on the podcast, we have a submit a topic button.
Oh yeah, that would be perfect
On
for
the
this
website. If
too,
you
as
listen
well, yeah.
and you have an idea for a topic, go click that and it'll email us your submission and
Yeah,
then
if
we
you
can
get an
consider
email
it.
that says "Eat my butt," that was me. So,
We'll take all your Fortnite suggestions.
But yeah,
Austin,
well, I'd love to do a story
YouTube-
about how complaining about the Epic Game Stores for assholes.
Oh my God! Don't get me started. Don't get me
Alright,
started.
Well, with that, I think that's all the plugs, right?
yeah, I think we're good.
All right, we're done.
I think threw my phone on the other side of the room.
As Randy falls out of his chair, we're out.